In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, curses are born from human emotion. Every fear, every grief, every unresolved thing that a person carries, it generates cursed energy. It fosters, it takes shape, and the stronger the emotion, the stronger the curse. By that logic, Yuta Okkotsu's curse should have been unstoppable. And it was. After all, no emotion runs deeper than love. The massive, monstrous spirit the Jujutsu world would come to call the Queen of Curses, but Rika didn't curse him. He cursed her. When Rika Orimoto was hit by a car and died in front of him, Yuta's grief was so overwhelming, so massive and so unbearable that he refused to let her go. In the literal grammar of the JJK universe, his love, his refusal, and his pen hit into the boundary between life and death and dragged his soul back, bound to him, chained, turned a little girl into a monster. Because his ego could not survive the loss, the ring on his finger isn't a romantic symbol. It's a prison he built for the person he loved. And the story of Yuta Okkotsu actually starts not with a trauma that happened to him, but with a trauma he caused. Years pass, Yuta grows up. Rika does not. She follows him everywhere. A massive, malevolent shape that detonates anyone who gets too close. Bullies learn this quickly, once. Instead of feeling protected, Yuta begins to collapse. He starts to understand that Rika isn't protecting him. She's punishing everyone around him on his behalf. He tries to disappear, isolates himself completely, because everyone who gets near him is in danger, and he knows it. He tries to end his own life. He has decided, somewhere very deep, that he is too dangerous to exist, that his presence is radioactive, that the most loving thing he can do is remove himself from every equation. Most stories would introduce the mentor figure to tell the protagonist he has value, but what Gojo actually says is stranger and more honest.
Guess what? You're starting at a new school today. The curse that was placed upon you, it's a curse that can save people too. Depending on how it's used, of course. My advice to you is learn how to use that power.
Gojo, in his own particular way, treated Yuta less as a wounded child and more as an extremely rare resource that would be wasteful to discard. And Yuta, who has been running from his own existence for years, accepts this framing completely. The first psychological knot in Yuta's character, the one everything else will hang from, he arrives at Jujutsu High with zero sense of inherent worth. He doesn't believe he deserves to live because of what he is. He believes he might be allowed to live if he becomes useful enough. That distinction will matter for everything that comes after. The first person at Jujutsu High who gets Yuta's attention is Maki Zenin, and she hates him on sight. Maki is a woman who was born into one of the most powerful sorcerer families in Japan, and received essentially none of their power. No cursed technique, minimal cursed energy. A family that looks at her as a disappointment and a liability. And she is training herself to death every single day to become stronger than every person who ever wrote her off. She meets Yuta, this boy wrapped in a monster curse, who is apologizing for existing, who looks like he's hoping someone will tell him it's okay to disappear, and she is disgusted. She understands something he doesn't, that the most obscene thing in the world isn't weakness, it's playing the victim, waiting to be saved, instead of fighting to survive. She doesn't pity him, she challenges him. She trains with him every day, not as an act of kindness, but as a personal refusal to waste what's in front of her. Yuta's character becomes genuinely fascinating and genuinely complicated. He doesn't find a reason to live in himself. He borrows one from her. He decides to fight because Maki is worth fighting for. He decides to endure because Maki's endurance gives him something to reach toward. He decides to exist because existence means he can protect her. A concept in psychology sometimes called foreclosed identity, when a person adopts a purpose before they've had the chance to develop one of their own. Yuta never chose what he cared about. He just kept looking at whoever was nearest to him. and wrapping himself around their Ryu. With Rika, he made her purpose his grief. With Maki, he made her ambition his reason, and his cursed technique, copy, the ability to replicate any other sorcerer's innate technique. Isn't coincidence. Before Yuta copies a single power in combat, he has already been copying something more essential, the desire to be alive. He is, at his core, a mirror, enormously powerful, technically empty, reflecting whoever is standing in front of him with devastating fidelity. Yuta's strength is real, his care for other people is genuine. His connection to his classmates, Maki, Togi, Panda, transforms him into someone worth watching, worth rooting for, but the source of that strength is still borrowed, still dependent. And the series knows what that means for the version of Yuta that comes after. Gojo Satoru is the greatest sorcerer alive, and he is alone. His power makes genuine connection nearly impossible. Nobody can reach him, not in the way that real connections requires, where both people occupy roughly the same position. He poured the energy of that loneliness into being a teacher, into building a generation that might distribute what he had always carried alone. He chose students. He invested in them, and when he was sealed, the people who might have come closest to carrying his vision forward were the ones he taught. Yuta Okkotsu is the student who took that investment and arrived at the exact opposite conclusion. Gojo wanted a world where no single person had to carry everything. Yuta looked at that vision and decided, I will carry everything, so no single person has to. The inversion is complete. Gojo tried to distribute the weight. Yuta is concentrating it back into himself. With full awareness of the cast, the Culling Game is a killing tournament that Kenjaku constructed to harvest enough cursed energy to reshape Japan. To stop it, the Alliance needs to add new rules. And adding rules costs points. Points come from killing other players. Yuta knows this. He sets himself a number, 400. Enough for everything his allies need. He will get it himself. Because the Shibuya incident, where Gojo was sealed, where the city collapsed, where the people died while Yuta was training in Africa, left him with a debt he has decided only he can pay. He doesn't want his sensei to have to kill his best friend again. He means Geto, or what remains of Geto, and Gojo killing a person wearing the face of the man he loved. He enters the colony and finds Ryu Ishiguri, a man who spent his entire first life winning every fight and never feeling full. He describes existence using the language of hunger. He talks about dessert, about appetites, about the one meal that might finally satisfy him. But Yuta feels hunger too. He just points it in a different direction. His hunger isn't for victory or recognition or satisfaction. His hunger is to absorb enough of the world's suffering that the people he loves can stop bleeding. Ryu fights to fuel himself. Yuta fights to empty everyone else's pain into himself. The difference looks like altruism. In practice, both of them are doing the same thing, using combat to resolve something unresolvable inside themselves. Uro is the other fighter, a reincarnated sorcerer who was used by powerful people and discarded when she stopped being convenient. She carries resentment like a second skeleton. She looks at Yuta and sees someone whose power grew from love, from connection, from being surrounded by people who believe in him, and she cannot stand it. She represents the version of strong that her circumstances never allowed her to become. She thinks he's blessed, and anything he says to her becomes a reason to fight. And Yuta, who genuinely wants to understand, who reaches toward her the same way he reaches toward everyone, admits that she's right. He says it the way someone says affect they've accepted. The admission that his happiness is something not everyone gets to have. He spares them both. Ryu and Uro are defeated, their fight done, their points available. Both of them tell him he is too soft for this world. Yuta doesn't argue. He takes their points and tells Ryu to be grateful to his comrades, the ones who added the role that made sparing enemies worth more than killing them. Let's be honest about what Yuta Okkotsu looks like from the outside. He has the largest cursed energy reserves of any active sorcerer. He fights for his friends, not for power. He spares his enemies when he doesn't have to. He carries the weight other people can't. He loves Rika. In any conventional shonen, he is the protagonist, the chosen one with the hidden power and the pure heart, the final boss of wholesomeness. And Jujutsu Kaisen has spent every page of his story building the exact architecture that will eventually collapse him. The power of love in this universe is a literal mechanism, and Yuta activated it at 11 years old by refusing to let go of a dead girl. He didn't mean harm. He was a grieving child, but intent doesn't determine the outcome of a curse. The ring on his finger, the one Rika gave him, is a symbol of love and also proof of what love can do when it refuses to accept loss. The series plants the seed of something darker. Yuta's greatest strength is his capacity to absorb pain on behalf of others, to decide that he is the one whose soul gets stained, so that everyone else can keep their hands clean. A character flaw born of love so enormous it has no architecture for loss, and it doesn't go away. He got older, he got stronger, he got wiser, the shape of it changed. Instead of trapping a dead girl's soul, he now volunteers his own for the weight of the world. Instead of saying, "Don't die here and leave me," he now says, "Let me be the one who dies so you don't have to." The language is different. The structure is identical. Ishiguro called him soft. Uro called him blessed. Gojo would probably call him one of his best students. None of them are wrong, and none of them are seeing the full thing. In a world that was genuinely just, Yuta's altruism would be repaid. He would sacrifice for the people he loves, and the people he loves would survive and build something worthy of what it cost him. But Jujutsu Kaisen has never been interested in that story. It's interested in what happens when a person whose entire identity is built on absorbing the pain of others meets a world with unlimited pain to offer, and the love that makes him the best version of a hero is the exact same force that will make him capable of the worst version of a decision. He loves people so completely, with such total disregard for his own survival, that there is no line he would not cross to ensure the safety of those he loves. I want to thank you so much for watching this far. If this video made you think, please help me out by subscribing, leave a like, and hit the hype button to boost the channel. Thanks so much for everything. See you in the next deep dive.